Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Northeast webinar for our draft marine plan. We are going to wait 2 or 3 minutes just to get everyone dialed in, and then we'll be starting off with some housekeeping. So just hold on the line. Everyone's muted. We'll be starting in 2 or 3 minutes. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Draft Northeast Marine Plan Consultation webinar. My name is Rachel Brown, and I'm the Marine Planning Programme Manager here at the MMO. Today, I'm joined by 3 other presenters. We're going to be taking it in turns to talk through some slides for you today. I've got Natalie Jackson, a Marine Planner here at the MMO, Mel Nichols, a Senior Marine Planner, and I have Claire McCarthy, who is your Northeast Coastal Planner, some of you may know or have met. The purpose of today's webinar is for us to give you a little bit of background about the MMO and marine plan development in the Northeast, and also to explain the consultation and how you respond, as well as finishing off with a little bit of implementation work. The webinar is going to last for about an hour, with the last 15 minutes focused on questions and answers, which I'll tell you a little bit more about in a minute. The webinar is being recorded, and as such, everyone is on mute on the phone. Please don't unmute yourself. My webinar manager will remute you if you do by accident. That's just so that we can get through the slides and make sure that everyone can hear the audio clearly. However, we will be having several opportunities for you to interact with us through other means. So, what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to hand over to Natalie very shortly, and we're going to talk about the Marine Management Organisation and our role in developing marine plans for English waters. Then we're going to give you a little bit of background to marine planning for those of you that may be new to the area. And then we're going to talk about the journey we've had so far in developing the North East Marine Plan. This isn't our first engagement opportunity that we've had, but it may be the first time that you've joined us, so we're going to give you some information about how we got to this point. And then the bulk of the presentation is going to be about the consultation itself and the tool that you can use to respond and the best way to do that. So we'll run through some hints and tips for using Citizen Space. Finally, we'll wrap up with implementation and give you some information about our implementation training sessions that are also being run alongside our consultation. And then we'll wrap up with some question and answers from you and the next steps for both the Marine Planning team and the North East Marine Plan. So, as I have already said, we would like this webinar to be interactive. And to do that, we're going to ask you some questions. I'm just going to give you a little example of what that looks like on your screen. We're going to be using the webinar facility to ask you 3 sets of survey questions. They're not hard, don't worry. What will happen is, as you can see on the screenshot just there, the poll questions will appear on the right-hand side of your screen, one at a time. Once you select one of the answers, you simply need to click Submit, which is in the bottom right, highlighted in red just now, and then we will be able to collate the results from everyone on the webinar. Don't worry if you close or minimize that screen on the right-hand side. The next time a poll comes up, it will reappear. You don't have to do anything special with that. Okay, so why don't we try it out? Let's ask you the first of our 3 questions. See if it's all working all right. So my first question is, how would you rate your current knowledge of marine planning? There are 4 choices. A, you've got no knowledge. This is the first event that you've attended. B, you've got limited knowledge. You know the basics. You might have attended 1 event in the past. C, you've got good knowledge. You've attended more than 1 marine planning event. Or D, it's in-depth knowledge. You use it in your day-to-day work. So I'll get that poll up on the screen there for you. It's going to be on the screen for about 30 seconds. So if you select one of A, B, C, or D, and then click Submit in the right-hand corner, what we will do with these results is we'll use it to tailor a little bit of the next presentations to your needs so that we're either giving you more or less detail on marine planning and the MMO. Okay, we've got about 10 seconds left to run. Oh. Okay, so we've got a mix. Yeah, so we've got a mix of limited, good knowledge in the middle there. A few of you have got no knowledge. This is your first event, so we'll try and cover as much as we can for you there, but you can ask us any questions you want at the end. And a few of you got in-depth knowledge, so we'll try not to bore you too much with our with our background information. We'll get straight to the consultation for you as soon as we can. Okay, so that's how we're going to ask you questions, but more importantly, we want you to be able to ask us questions as we go through. Now, as I've already said, you are all on mute, so we're not going to have an audio question and answer session. What we're going to do is we're going to use a facility called Slido. Some of you may have used this before at conferences or other meetings. The instructions are going to come up on the screen just now. So as I've already said, you're all muted on the webinar, but if you want to ask a question, then what you need to do is you need to type www.slide.do into either a browser window or your mobile device. Once you've typed that in, you then will come to the landing page and you just have to type in the event code, MMONE for the Northeast. And then what you'll see is you will see a blank screen with a free text box, and you can type in your question and hit the send button. Please like other questions. So if you see something on there that you want to hear the answer to, you can like it with the thumbs up button. And what we're going to do is, assuming there are more than 5 questions, we're going to take the top 5 with the most likes at the end, and I will answer them on the webinar. The rest of the questions we're going to take away, and we will provide answers, but what we'll do with those is we'll provide them in a written form and publish them alongside the recorded webinar on our website. So any questions you've got at any point, doesn't matter whether they're about the process, about marine planning in general, or something slightly more complicated, or about any of the tools that we're using, go ahead and ask those. I would ask that you type in www.slide.do now and enter the event code MMONE. I will share these instructions again at the end of each presentation so that you can, if a question comes to you and you haven't done it at this point in time, you can type those details in then and go ahead and do that. Okay, so that's pretty much all of the housekeeping from me. I'm now going to hand over to Natalie Jackson, who is one of our marine planners, and she's going to give you a little bit of background about the Marine Management Organisation and marine planning. Over to you, Natalie.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Rachel. So as Rachel said, my name is Natalie. I'm a marine planner located in Newcastle, and I'll be taking you through some of the background information on the MMO and marine planning. For those of you who said that you had some good knowledge about us, you can just sit back and relax and pick up, the odd bit of information here and there. For those of you who have a bit more of a limited knowledge, hopefully I'll be able to talk you through things in a bit more detail. And as Rachel said, if you do have any questions at the end, please feel free to put them on Slido and we'll see if we can answer them as best we can. So the MMO is a non-departmental public body, and we were established in 2010 through the Marine and Coastal Access Act 2009, which from this point onwards I'll be referring to as MACA. We're supported by the Department for Environment, Food and Rural Affairs. So our role is to license, regulate and plan marine activities in the seas around England so that they're carried out in a sustainable way. Our responsibilities include managing England's fishing fleet and quotas, creating and enforcing marine conservation bylaws, responding to marine emergencies, and of course our functions in relation to marine planning as well as marine licensing. Marine planning is a devolved function in the UK. So the Secretary of State for DEFRA is the Marine Planning Authority for England, and functions that are related to marine planning have been delegated over to the MMO. The Marine and Fisheries Department and Welsh Government are the authorities for the Welsh waters, and the Department for Agriculture, Environment and Rural Affairs are for the Irish waters, and likewise Marine Scotland for the Scottish waters. All of these authorities are responsible for producing their own marine plan, and therefore the MMO work closely with these authorities to make sure that all UK waters are being managed in one cohesive system. The Crown dependencies and bordering European countries have been involved in the development of the English marine plan. There are a lot of departments that have functions in the marine area. You may have come across some, and so hopefully this graph will demonstrate to you the varied responsibilities of all these organisations and the limit to which their remit extends. You can see a bit of crossover in a few of them. And as you can see, the MMO at the top covers all responsibilities from the mean high water springs out to 200 nautical miles. That means that we have an advisory role covering fisheries enforcement, development enforcement, surveillance, licensing, planning and marine conservation, as well as regulation. As you can see from the images here, England's marine areas are exceptionally busy with overlapping and sometimes competing environmental, economic and social interests. Marine planning provides the mechanism for which space and resources for a given marine plan area can be strategically optimised for sustainable economic growth, whilst at the same time trying to protect the environment. And it is true to say that marine planning, we can't offer every party exactly what they want, but we do seek to be equitable, efficient and evidence-based in the outcomes. Marine planning, therefore, ensures that the right activities happen at the right place, at the right time and in the right way, placing sustainable development at the centre of all of the decisions. Marine planning provides and delivers cross-governmental policy priorities in the marine area, overlaid with stakeholder views, evidence and issues that may be area-specific, such as in the northeast. So the marine area consists of the seabed, the water column and the surface, and you can therefore have multiple activities happening at the same time in different dimensions, or in the same location but at different times of the year. So marine plans therefore promote coexistence of activities. The Marine and Coastal Access Act, which I mentioned previously, provides domestic legislative basis for the marine planning system. And the Marine Policy Statement, which a few of you may have come across, was adopted by all UK administrations in March 2011. This provides the policy framework for the preparation of all UK marine plans and contains a range of policy objectives and considerations which are used to inform decision-making in the absence of a marine plan. Marine plans therefore translate the Marine Policy Statement into detailed policy and spatial guidance for each marine plan area. And the marine plans for all English waters will be adopted by 2021. Section 58 specifically in MACA says that all public bodies making authorisation and enforcement decisions which affect or might affect the UK marine area must be made in accordance with the Marine Policy Statement and marine plans, or state its reasons why not. All other decisions must be made with regard to the Marine Policy Statement and marine plans. For example, if a public or local authority reviews a plan. Now that's everything from me, and I'll hand back over to Rachel.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Natalie. Okay, so that was a whistle-stop tour of the marine planning background and system and the MMO. Have you got any questions on the MMO and our role and function with regards to marine planning, or on marine planning itself? If you have, then as I said before, please do go to www.sly.do in either your mobile device or your browser and enter the event code MMO Northeast, NE for Northeast, that's MMO NE. Type your question out and hit send. If there's anything else on there that people are asking that you would like to hear an answer to, you can click the thumbs up button to like the question, and the top 5 questions with the most likes will be answered at the end. Please do bear in mind that we will be closing the question facility 15 minutes before the end of the webinar, just to give me an opportunity to think of some answers for you. But if you do have questions after that time, we will try and get back to you in the written response. Okay. I shall now actually no, I have another poll for you. I was going to go straight into a presentation. So, I have another question for you. Oh, my webinar master is just saying there seems to be a slight delay in the slides that you may be experiencing. We'll try and go a little bit slower so that the slides catch us up. But you should now see the second question that I have for you. So, before joining this webinar, did you intend to respond to the draft marine plan consultation for the Northeast draft marine plan? 4 choices: yes, A, B, no, C, you're not sure, or D, you've already responded, in which case, amazing. We have actually received responses already, so it wouldn't surprise me if some of you are on the call. That would be great to hear from you. So please do select A, B, C, or D and click Submit. Okay, so got about 10 seconds before that poll closes, and we'll publish the result on the screen for you. I can see the early scores on the doors. saying that most of you are saying yes. That's great to hear. Okay, just wait for that lag to kick in. It's coming. Yep, the majority of you have said yes, you're planning to respond to the consultation. Well, hopefully, the next few presentations will give you the information you need to make that process as easy and smooth as we possibly can. And for those of you that are unsure about whether you're going to respond, I hope that we can convince you of the value to yourselves of responding to the formal consultation for the Draft North East Marine Plan. Okay, let's move on. I'm going to hand over now to Claire McCarthy, who is our Coastal Marine Planner for the North East. Some of you may have met her already, and if you haven't, I do urge you to get in touch. Claire is going to give you a presentation on the journey so far in the development of the North East Marine Plan.
Thank you, Rachel. Good morning to everyone on the call. As Rachel just said, my name is Claire, and I'm the Marine Planner based in the North East Marine Plan area, so I work out of our coastal office at North Shields. The MMO is required to develop marine plans for all 11 plan areas. It is developing 11 marine plan documents, with each covering the plan area inshore and offshore areas. That's apart from the southeast, which only has an inshore area. The East Marine Plan, shown here in red, was adopted in 2014, and the South Marine Plan, shown here in blue, was adopted in 2018. If there's anyone on our webinar today that's had experience of using either the South or the East plans, then your feedback would be invaluable. We have our annual East and South monitoring surveys live at the moment until the 28th of February. The Northeast, Northwest, Southeast and Southwest marine plans have been developed concurrently, with an aim for the marine plans to be published no later than 2021. These marine plans are currently out for public consultation and will publish a modifications report later in the year to highlight any major changes that we've made following the current consultation. This is the Northeast inshore and offshore marine plan areas, shown here on your screen in purple. The lighter colour here indicates the Northeast inshore marine plan area, and that stretches from the Scottish border to Flamborough Head, out to 12 nautical miles. This includes estuaries and rivers up to the tidal extent as well. The Northeast offshore marine plan area is shown here in a darker purple and includes the area from 12 nautical miles out to the seaward limit of the exclusive economic zone, which is a total of approximately 50,000 square kilometres of sea. The marine plan areas of Norway, Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands and Scotland border the Northeast offshore marine plan area, and it also shares a border with the East Marine Plan area, which you'll see here on your screen in green. It's worth noting here that the Northeast Marine Plan is a single document, but technically two plans. So there's one for the inshore and one for the offshore marine plan areas, and these have been developed through a single process. This slide shows the marine planning cycle, which some of you may have seen before at some of our other marine planning workshops and events. Following the publication of the Statement of Public Participation in 2016, iterative stages of plan development began. We fast forward to 2020, we're now at stage 6 of the wheel, which is the public consultation on the draft North East Marine Plan. During this consultation period, the MMO will be providing training to decision makers in order to assist with the successful implementation of the marine plans. We have also delivered informative presentations to key stakeholder groups. You can see from the marine planning cycle, the monitoring process is a central part of continuous improvement to marine planning, ensuring that marine plans remain up to date. The MMO reports to Parliament every 3 years on each individual plan from the date of its adoption, and DEFRA is responsible for a report every 6 years on all of the adopted marine plans. The MMO also carries out yearly monitoring surveys with stakeholders to measure how the plans are being used to inform decisions. Plans have been developed through an iterative process with stakeholder engagement at every step. 3 iterations have occurred so far for the North East Marine Plan, culminating in this statutory public consultation on the draft marine plans. At previous iterative stages, the MMO has held engagement events throughout the North East, including workshops in Newcastle, Middlesbrough, Redcar, Seahouses and Amble. This iterative approach that we've taken has provided various benefits, which include outputs that have been delivered early in the process and have allowed us to build on firm foundations. There's been visibility and feedback opportunities at multiple stages, and iterative working has also allowed us and stakeholders to be responsive to change. So the timeline that you'll see on your screens now, you may have seen throughout our previous engagement. The North East Marine Plans are now at public consultation stage, so that was stage 6 on the planning wheel, at which point the draft plans become a material consideration. After the consultation, there is a 24-week period for amends to the plan. And as I said earlier, the aim is for adoption of the North East Marine Plan by 2021. So thank you now for your attention for that presentation, and I'll pass you back over to Rachel.
Thanks very much, Claire. Okay, so we've got some good questions coming in on Slido. It's good to see you all using that tool. Have you got any questions about that presentation that Claire just gave about our journey so far on the development of the draft North East Marine Plan? If you have, then please do go to www.sly.gov and enter the event code MMONE, type your question and hit send. If you like any of the 3 or 4 questions that are on there and you want to hear an answer to those, you can hit the little thumbs up like button, which is in the top right corner above the question, and the top 5 questions with the most likes I will attempt my very best to answer at the end. I'm now going to pass over to the bulk of our presentations, which will be delivered by Mel Nichols, one of our senior marine planners. Just to note that about halfway through Mel's presentation, we will be taking the top 5 questions, so do keep typing those in if you've got them coming in. He will give you a reminder just a few minutes before they close. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Mel, and he's going to give you a nice presentation about the statutory consultation for the draft North East Marine Plans and how you respond.
Thanks, Rachel and Claire. We've now come to what might be regarded as the heart of the webinar, as Rachel said, the statutory consultation on the draft North East Marine Plan. I will give you an overview of the consultation and also walk you through the actual online tool to make your responses and seek to explain why it's important that you do in fact submit those responses. Consultation is a statutory requirement of the Act. We've had, as Claire mentioned, annual rounds of informal engagement to develop the iterative components of the North East Marine Plan. These provided invaluable information, and your input and engagement has been much appreciated to date. But now you'll have an opportunity to make full representations on the whole plan. Especially important that you do so because, as has been said, the draft North East Marine Plan is now a material consideration in decision making. Your representations on the draft will ensure the adopted plan is even more effective and fit for purpose. The consultation period opened on the 14th of January and will run for 12 weeks, closing on the 6th of April. What are you being consulted on? Well, 3 documents open for consultation and 1 is supporting. The draft marine plan itself includes the plan's vision, objectives and policies. Then there is a technical annex which gives more detail about those policies and how they are implemented. These are supported by the draft sustainability appraisal, which considers the economic, social and environmental impacts of the draft marine plan, and also what steps can be taken to avoid and mitigate negative effects, as well as identify opportunities to maximise the plan's positive contribution to sustainability. It's important you read this essay document as a whole and don't just take individual policies in isolation. These are supported in turn by the Appropriate Assessment Information Report, which is a part of the Habitats Regulations Assessment, not itself open for consultation, but does provide information about any adverse effects the plan may have on the integrity of European sites. And I'm happy to say that the report considers that the policy framework in the North East Draft Marine Plan will have no adverse effects on the integrity of European sites. When you get into the consultation proper, you will be able to see the vision for the North East Marine Plan. It has a 20-year horizon and explains how we would expect the North East Marine Plan areas to look after 20 years of implementation of the draft plan. The vision is achieved through marine plan objectives. Experience from developing the plans in the east and south has indicated the value in adopting the high-level marine objectives from the Marine Pulse Statement as the North East Marine Plan objectives. They cover the full scope of the three pillars, so integrating the principles of sustainable marine economy, ensuring a strong, healthy and just society, and living within environmental limits. Technical Annex then will give more detail about the implementation of the policies, particularly relevant for proponents of activities and for decision makers. An example given there is for infrastructure. When you respond to the consultation, we would encourage you to use the government's online tool called Citizen Space. That ensures that your responses are specific to the section that you intend and also helps us to analyse them in the most effective way. This reduces any chance of incorrect interpretation on our part. We suggest that you familiarise yourself with the questions ahead of reading the plan documents. They do follow the structure of documents and give you a heads up about how you can actually ultimately make your representations on the draft plan. We also suggest that you review the support documents as well. They help to facilitate your understanding of the draft plan. And finally, do consider the plan as a whole, using all the documents really, when responding to the consultation. It wouldn't pay to take any one element of the marine plan in isolation. All the data and evidence that we are licensed to publish is shown on our Explore Marine Plans tool at the link shown on the screen. Do dip into that to help you understand what underpins the North East Draft Marine Plan. We do pride ourselves in the MMO on our engagement practice, but we're always open for advice on how perhaps we can do it better. So there's scope through the consultation to provide your feedback on the tool itself, and that will help us to improve our engagement and future consultation. Really drilling down into the consultation now, when you arrive at the page there, I'll be able to help you walk through the tool as you will see it as you have a go. Scroll down. Your first opportunity there, a drop-down box for all the draft documents available to be downloaded, the plan, Tech Annex, Suitability Appraisal, and the Appropriate Assessment Information Report. In particular, though, it's important that you fill in a question about yourself. That ensures transparency in the process to make sure that it's real people making real comments, and also helps us to analyse any trends in the responses. The question then about the background and the context to the consultation and the marine plan. Questions about the vision and its 20-year horizon, and then eventually get into the policies themselves. All the while, there's a progress bar on the side there, little sliders that show when you have answered the questions concerned. See your progress through the tool. You'll note that some of the policies have more questions than others, and that's because the likes of aggregates have in fact got more policies to respond to. When you respond to each policy question, you'll first up be asked to tick a box to say that you support the policy, yes or no, or perhaps with subject to changes. Especially if you're responding with changes or no, then we'd like you to fill in the box below to give more detail to support your choice. Help us to understand what changes need to be made to the plan in your mind to improve it. Many of the policies in the North East Marine Plan are also found in the other 3 draft plans at consultation, Northwest, Southeast and Southwest. Hopefully to make your life easier if you're a stakeholder with interests across the 4 plan areas. You've got a chance there to demonstrate to us that you would like your response on the North East policy concerned to also apply to 1 or more of the other 3 draft plans. This means you don't have to complete the consultation more than once. The North East Marine Plan document is quite a large document, really, and you may not wish to or be able to complete your responses to all the questions in one sitting. So there's scope there to save your progress as you go and to come back to it over a period of sessions. Just remember that your responses, though, are not actually submitted until you do finally complete the consultation tool and press the submit button. And make sure you do come back and do so before the 6th of April closing date. All the while, too, there's the guidance drop down there, which gives you more information, hints and tips about particular point you are in the tool if you need some more help to complete the consultation response. Do keep those questions coming in to Slido because it's not far off closing. So this journey the plan's been on, all your engagement in developing it, it really means the North East Plan comes into its own when it is implemented. What does implementation mean? Broadly means using the Marine Plan as a management tool to make decisions relating to the marine environment as part of a plan-led process, using all the appropriate marine pulse documents, which includes the Marine Pulse Statement as well as the North East Marine Plan. This is done principally through decisions made by public authorities. They can include Minister of the Crown, MO itself, local planning authorities, or other public bodies such as ports. Especially important because the publication of the North East Draft Marine Plan for consultation means, as has been said before, that the plan is now a material consideration in those decisions. The plan really takes effect when it's adopted after consultation. The amendments have been made in light of your representations. So, what are these decisions? There are 2 major kinds of decisions. There are, first of all, those that are authorization or enforcement decisions. And these must be made in accordance with the Marine Plan and the MPS. If an authority is making a decision that's not in accordance with the Marine Plan or MPS, then they have an obligation to state their reasons why. The second set of decisions are those that are therefore not authorization or enforcement, but nonetheless still affect the exercise of any function that affects the UK marine area, in this case the North East. And those decisions must be made having regard to the North East Marine Plan. As an aside, I might point out here that there are nationally significant infrastructure projects, such as offshore wind farms of 100 plus megawatts. These, as they have their own national policy statements, do take precedence over the MPS, and so in that case, those decisions must have regard to the Marine Plan. We're not going to be leaving you alone with this implementation. To support you, we have set up a series of implementation training sessions. These are aimed at decision makers. They also could be relevant to other stakeholder groups. And particularly important for local authorities and port authorities, we might suggest. If you haven't already booked on such a training course, then please do so. And first and foremost, you can do so through contacting Claire, your North East Marine Planner. Otherwise, just contact the planning@marinemanagement.org.uk mailbox, or indeed get in touch with any member of the Marine Planning team known to you. I think Slido is about to close, so just make sure you wrap up any questions that you have to ask us. But finally, my part of the presentation of the webinar, what are the benefits of responding to the consultation? Well, it raises awareness amongst you all of the proposed direction to be taken for the sustainable development of the North East Marine Plan areas. And in particular, we need your knowledge to make sure that the North East Marine Plan is locally specific and addresses all those local issues and opportunities. In particular, it will help support the implementation of the Marine Plan or its policies and achieve a balance across all the sectors. So it's really important that you have your say in this consultation. So thank you, and I look forward to receiving your representations on the draft North East Marine Plan. I'll hand you back to Rachel.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Mel. Okay, so before we jump to my question and answer session, answering your lovely questions there on Slido, we've got a final question for you. I know the majority of you were intending to respond to the consultation anyway, but can you all answer this final question again on our poll that's appeared on your right-hand side? Do you now intend to respond to the consultation for the draft North East Marine Plan? Your options are yes, no, not sure, or you may have already responded in the short time we've been talking to you here. So if you select your option and then press submit on the right-hand side, we'll have about 10 or 15 more seconds with that poll open. Make sure that you're all still awake there on the call. Okay, let's have a look. Excellent. The majority of you are now saying yes. That's fantastic. Okay, well, that pleases me that we have at least been able to convince those of you who weren't 100% sure at the beginning that it's worthwhile responding. So I'm just going to wrap up a little bit before we move on to the question and answer session. What I would say is that if any of you are still sitting on the fence about submitting a response to our consultation, please do. This is the final formal opportunity to influence the draft North East Marine Plan. Please do start considering the draft North East Marine Plan in your decision-making processes if that is appropriate. As Mel was saying, it is now a material consideration in all decision-making processes that are relevant. If you would like some support thinking about how to use the Marine Plan, do get in touch with Claire McCarthy. I'll share her details at the end and arrange one of our implementation training sessions where we can help support you in your decision-making processes. If you haven't already, please do subscribe to our newsletter. If you send an email to planning@marinemanagement.org.uk, not only will you get our newsletter and our regular updates from the Marine Planning team across all of the Marine Plan areas in England, but you will also get notifications about any engagement or surveying that we're doing throughout the year. And then the link at the bottom there is for Explore Marine Plans. Those of you that have been involved in the process since we started work in the North East, or may have been involved in the East Marine Plan, may remember that we had a digital tool called Marine Information System, or MIS. What we've been doing over the last year and a half is developing a more user-friendly online service for interrogating the data that underpins the Marine Plan policies, but also the Marine Plan policies themselves, and that's called Explore Marine Plans. If you follow that link that we've typed out on the screen there, you can start exploring that online service and interrogating the data. We are not consulting on Explore Marine Plans within the time-boxed frame of the draft Marine Plan consultation, but we will always take feedback on how it should be improved or if there's additional data that is relevant to marine planning that you'd like to see on there. And if you do have feedback about Explore Marine Plans, you can use the planning@marinemanagement.org.uk address to send it to us. Okay, now let's move on to the top 5 liked questions. There were quite a few others, and if I have time, I might try and run through some of them, but I'll try and answer these in order. So, the first question is it true that our onshore planning responsibilities have a new boundary of mean high watermark instead of mean low watermark? I don't know, primarily because I'm not sure who that's coming from and which organisation or which set of responsibilities that you have. For marine planning, our remit runs from mean high water springs out to the territorial limit or 200 nautical miles offshore. There is an overlap in the intertidal zone between marine planning and terrestrial planning responsibilities, and that overlap is there on purpose. So terrestrial planning runs down to mean low water springs, and marine planning runs up to mean high water springs. That means that we are making integrated decisions in that intertidal zone about what type of activities are happening and the impact it might have on the two systems. And I suspect that may not have answered this specific question, if you want more details about your question, whoever asked that, do send me an email at planning@marinemanagement.org.uk and I'll try and follow up with a little bit more detail. Okay, question 2. Will marine plans include the government's consideration of extending permitted development rights within ports as part of its proposed Free Ports initiative? Well, yes, the marine plans are cross-governmental, so we consider all emerging policy priorities across all government departments. That includes the work with the Department for Transport, Bays and MHCLG around free ports. I will note that a consultation went live yesterday on that issue, and right now the draft North East Marine Plan represents the most up-to-date policy positions across government and have been signed off by government departments ahead of this consultation phase. However, we recognise that the political times in which we are living right now are moving quite rapidly. And so in the next stage of plan amendment, following the consultation, there may be some progress and some policy priorities put in place around free ports in relation to the 25-year environment plan and further clarity around net zero carbon 2050 and other policy areas. So in terms of answering that question and making it more broad, the marine plans will reflect the most up-to-date policy positions across government, and they do require cross-governmental sign-off. So if there's any progress made around free ports that requires reflection in the marine plans, we will be doing that. Question 3, is there any way of finding out if comments made at earlier consultation stages have been taken into account in the draft plan? Okay, so just a point of clarity, this is the only consultation, and it is a formal consultation, that we've had today on the draft North East Marine Plan. All work done previously is called engagement, and it was used to develop the marine plan's policies to inform the issues that underpin the marine plans. At the end of our last round of engagement, which was about this time last year and was called Iteration 3, we published a report called You Said We Did. You can Google that, You Said We Did, Marine Management Organisation, and it should bring it up for you. We published that showed what we had done with the comments that we'd had to date from iteration 3, and in some instances where we hadn't been able to take comments into account, we gave the reasons for that. One thing that I will note is that we cannot take all comments into account all the time. We have to balance across environmental, social, and economic interests when developing marine plan policies. And so if a specific comment hasn't been taken into account, there will be a reason for that. And if you're looking for something in particular, you can get in touch with us at planning@marinemanagement.org.uk and we can find an explanation for you. Question 4. Will the plan relate policies to specific spatial areas? In other words, will the plan be supported by mapping to show the spatial extent of policies and where they apply? Yes, in short. There are static maps within the draft Marine Plan Technical Annex, but obviously we recognise that static maps do tend to go out of date. And so there are a mixture of policies in the draft North East Marine Plan, because marine planning isn't just about spatial designation of areas. It's making sure that the right activities happen in the right place at the right time and in the right way. And so there's a section in the technical annex that explains the different categories of policies. Some of those protect areas for certain activities that happen now. Some of them are thinking about activities that might happen in the North East Marine Plan areas over the next 20 years, the lifetime of the plan, and therefore seek compatibility with those areas, and they are spatially represented. You can also see the dynamic data that underpins marine plan policies on Explore Marine Plans. So that is, in short, I think, my answer to your question. But not all of the policies are spatial. Some of them are about making sure that things are considered in the decision-making process in the right way, and that will be where you'll see a non-spatial representation of policies. Okay, question 5. Could you please share an example of an activity where the marine plan or the marine policy statement would not apply? So marine plans inform and guide regulation, management, use and protection of marine plan areas, and in the absence of a marine plan, so prior to the consultation, it would be in the marine policy statement. All public bodies are legally required to make all authorisation and enforcement decisions which are likely to affect the marine areas in accordance with the marine plans, unless exception states otherwise. The reasons for not making a relevant decision in accordance with the plans must be provided by the decision maker. As Mel mentioned, an exception exists for decisions on applications for development consent for nationally significant infrastructure projects under the Planning Act 2008. And for NSIPs, or nationally significant infrastructure projects, they must have regard to the marine plans and the marine policy statement. If you wanted a specific example of an activity that would probably be smaller scale, that would have an exemption to the marine plan, for example, a temporary marker that will be removed within 24 hours, removal of litter by diving, or a pontoon that is 30 square metres or less. Those 3 activities would be exempt from the marine plan. Okay. Just looking at the time, there are a couple of other questions there that might be useful for everyone to hear the answer to. One person has asked, can I respond to the consultation via email or in writing? We are asking everyone to use Citizen Space to respond to the consultation, as this is a government consultation tool. The reason for us asking you to use the tool is because it allows us to take your comments within the context that you intend them to be taken in relation to the specific policy or area of the marine plan. If you are having accessibility issues, in that you can't access the internet, or you are having trouble using the tool for accessibility reasons, you can get in touch with us at planning@marinemanagement.org.uk and we can discuss a suitable alternative for yourselves. And just quickly, I will answer the others. Has the recent expansion of Teesmouth SPA affected the marine plan? So this is a really good example of where activities happen in the marine plan areas that aren't necessarily governed by the marine plan. The designation of SPAs, etc., is not part of the marine planning process. The policies that support special protected areas, that's what SPA stands for, and other marine protected areas do sit within the marine plan. And so the only thing that will have happened with the extension of the Teesmouth SPA is that it will have changed the spatial representation of the policy. And all existing legislation that would have applied prior to the plan in relation to European marine sites and SPAs in particular, i.e. the habitats regulations, still apply. So yes and no is my answer to that question. Okay, the others, I'm running out of time, so the others I will pick up in writing in the next week or so. It depends how quickly we can get these things published for you. I do also want to point out that we have delivered several webinars prior to the North East. We have done one for our national stakeholders, we've done one in the Southwest and one in the Northwest. The content's broadly the same, but we will also be publishing those on our website so that you can watch them back if you wish to, and you can also hear the answers to the questions that were asked there. And we will be publishing the questions that came from those webinars too, so if you're interested in those, please do take a look. Okay, what are the next steps for marine planning? As we've already said, the consultation closes on Monday the 6th of April, and we will be producing a summary following the consultation. What the summary will do is it's a government consultation summary. So what it will do, it will give some numbers around engagement, what we did during the consultation, and the number of responses we received, and broad level information about what we will be doing with those responses. But what we will be doing in the marine planning team is spending our summer making the necessary amends to the draft North East Marine Plan and the South East, South West and North West. We will be doing that, checking with stakeholders for any comments that maybe aren't clear, we need to follow up on, working with government departments to make sure we're reflecting the correct policy priorities, and finalising the assessment processes, the habitats regulations assessment and the sustainability appraisal that sit alongside the draft North East Marine Plan. We will be submitting the final marine plan for the North East to DEFRA and for government right around in late 2020. It's actually the end of September is our deadline. And what that means is that once the plans have gone through the necessary checks within government and have gone up to the Secretary of State, they will be signed off ahead of the early 2021 deadline. Once we publish the final adopted marine plan for the North East, we will also be publishing something we call a modifications report. And this is a detailed summary of the responses that we received during the consultation and the changes that were made as a result of those responses to the draft North East Marine Plan. And finally, we will have fully adopted marine plans for all of English waters for the first time ever in early 2021, which is a really significant milestone, bearing in mind that our English marine area is 100,000 square kilometres larger than our terrestrial marine area. And the North East marine plan areas do make up quite a significant part of that. So, what about next steps for you? Well, you might have some follow-up questions for us. And as such, I've mentioned this email address several times. You can contact us generally at planning@marinemanagement.org.uk. We monitor that mailbox on a daily basis, and the most appropriate person in the team will respond to any questions that you send in. We have local coastal marine planners based all around England, and I've put their names and telephone numbers up there on that slide in front of you. You heard from Claire today in the North East. If you are interested in an implementation training session, or you have yet to respond to the shout-out, the emails that we sent out for implementation training, do respond to Claire. We also, if you're further south in the North East Marine Plan area, you might also be interested in our East Marine Plan area, and we have got Amy Balding, who's based in Beverley, and we've got Georgie Sutton, who's based in Lowestoft, both of which can help you with any questions you might have about an adopted marine plan. You've got everyone else's name on there, so if you are interested in more than one plan area, or you want to submit multiple responses, or you've got colleagues in different areas, you can pass those details on. Okay, well, I think you've heard quite enough from me. We finished with about 30 seconds to spare. So I'd just like to thank you all for taking the time to dial into our webinar today. I hope that you found it informative and it will help you respond to our draft marine plan consultation. I look forward to seeing your responses. It really is a great opportunity for you to be able to shape the final North East Marine Plan. And so, without further ado, I shall end it there. Thanks once again. Bye now.